The next speaker is Bobur, and he will talk about fault injection. So, a round of applause. Eh?
Thank you. So, it's working now. Hi, I can use, it's connected, right?
It's connected.
I can test it, like 1, 2. Oh, great. Happy to see you all. How are you doing? Good? Are you ready for the party? Nice. Today we're going to talk about like how to use fault injection approach at API gateway level. Previous speaker also mentioned it like about proxying, how we can use APIum or something called it, but API gateway also, by the way, can act as a proxy server, but you can add additional features on the top of that. But let me ask you one question. How many of you here developers? No developers? Only QA engineers? Oh, I have 2. Okay. Sorry. This is my presentation only for developers. I'm going to come back. So, but yeah, in general, it's actually for QA engineers quite useful. I found, I investigated how this chaos engineering work and how we can get a benefit of using API gateway to test the resiliency of your APIs. First of all, let me introduce myself. Right? My name is Bobur. You can call me Tiger. Bobur means tiger. And my surname means livermore. Like you can combine a tiger who lives longer. Yeah. And I live in Tallinn, but in the past I lived in some other countries, in Italy and Germany, and I ended up with Estonia. I don't know why. I'm still trying to figure out. If you have any questions regarding session, feel free to reach out to me here on these following channels. First thing first, let me take one picture, like selfie picture from my Instagram account, so we can start from there. I think from this angle is good. Smiles. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, here you go. Now my job is done. Thank you guys. I can go home. All right. Yeah, but actually I do have a very good, interesting topic. I'm going to start with by introducing you what is API gateway. Who knows API gateway, by the way? Oh, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. If you don't know, don't worry. I will include shortly what it is, and you will think like, because it's more about using API gateway or not only QA engineer's decision or tester decision, also full engineering decisions, right? If you decide to use API gateway, you can get some benefits. I'm going to explain what kind of benefits, and then you can improve some resiliency of your APIs, build some reliable systems. And also I will talk about how you can achieve this full injection testing with API gateway using plugins without writing any code. Because we are living in low code, no code, right? For lazy developers or QA engineers. And we're going to experiment this plugin at the end of the demo. But let's refresh our mind by asking our questions. We call applications correct. When? When application is correct, do you know? Yeah, exactly, when it works. When it works as we expected, that we call the applications correct. Or we call application robust when it can take high load until it goes down, right? Or we call application resilient if the application failed, but it can stay to continue functioning, maybe partially, or it can maybe, restabilize itself automatically. We call it like it's a resilient application. Just 3 terms. And APIs. Who doesn't know what is API? Everybody knows? And stands for application programming interface, right? Because we are living in increasingly API-centric world. Every service we use today either uses API or is it API itself. Even ChatGPT uses API, right? If you want to retrieve some AI-generated models from your ChatGPT, you need to interact with REST or maybe GraphQL or gRPC service. Or ChatGPT has recently announced that you can use the custom plugins, create your plugin that interacts with your APIs intelligently, right? Here's some of the existing plugins over there. And next question to you, everybody, how to achieve successful APIs? Because if you want to achieve successful APIs, you need to follow these so-called indicators, right? API should be correct, API should be resilient and robust. How to achieve this? By testing? By developing, yeah. By developing some great applications, great APIs, or by using API gateway. Why am I saying by API gateway? Because I will explain why, how. And here, should I smile here? Yeah. Good. Because API gateway acts as a central point that routes your all incoming requests to the intended destinations, right? As you can think of nowadays, we are building multiple microservices or serverless APIs, whatever we call, to expose functionality of single product. We are not using monoliths. We are using monoliths, but you can think of monoliths also have at least two services, right? And here API gateway stays as a single layer, can interact with your client application. It can be web application, mobile application, desktop application, and then can fetch all the incoming requests. Previous speaker also mentioned, asked you why we are actually catching request calls, right? My question, I'm rephrasing this question, why we should or how we should catch this request. You don't have to worry. If you're using API gateway, it automatically catches every request coming to your, let's say, backend services, right? This picture is clear where API gateway stays, right? Yeah, good. In this case, let's talk about the plugins. Plugins, just additional component that can be plugged into your API gateway to add additional features. Like you can add authentication to your application, security, observability, transformation, and so on, and some testing features, like we're gonna discuss soon. And also it can act as a central point for observing your APIs. Like you can observe logs, metrics, traces in one place because it's uniquely identified to know all the moving traffic coming from your the client applications, right? And backend services just compose it and API gateway knows to which URL you should send the request. And there are some well-known pre-built connectors for observability like Prometheus, Skywalking, Datadog. Everything is supported by API gateway. You don't have to implement it on your own. So, and another thing, before, testing, my colleague mentioned it like you need to build a great application, right? To build a great application, you need to follow sometimes resiliency design patterns. Not only for developers, for everyone, right? There are some basic resiliency design patterns like timeout, retry, or fallback, health check, circuit breaker, right? A lot of patterns. And you don't have to know these patterns if you are using API gateway again. Like because API gateway already supports these sort of patterns like a redundant instance and so on. And now I am gonna explain or show you like one of the famous API gateway. It's open source fully under Apache Software Foundation. It's called Apache API 6. There are a lot of API gateway, API management solutions in the market. And maybe you know Kong, maybe Kraken-D or Ambassador, IBM Ambassador, right? It's open source, it's for free, and it has some features like hot reloading, means you don't have to stop your server. If you want to update configuration or maybe add some functionalities, right? This is cool. Maybe some of you are contributing to open source projects here. Who is contributing maybe Apache open source projects? Nobody? Okay, my question, who is using Kafka? Yeah, some people are doing it. Yes, Kafka also under Apache Software Foundation, right? API 6 also ESF project. So because why I really like this project, I'm also open source contributor as an Apache committer. I start to build with our team one plugin called the fault injection plugin, you will see soon, by using custom plugin development, which means I can use my own favorite programming language. I'm a Java developer. I can use Java plugin runner to write new plugin. And if someone is a Python developer, they can create a Python plugin, right? For testing or maybe for additional cross-cutting concerns. If you don't like to write the code, you can use a dashboard. user-friendly. As a UI dashboard, you can just put the plugins together to build new plugin, or you can also, from this dashboard, enable some fault injection features. You will see soon. And let's talk about now the resiliency, because as I mentioned earlier, we are using sometimes distributed systems like microservices, right? When you're using these systems, there is always possibility something might go wrong, right? Because it's a lot of many components and moving parts. You're not fully confident that one service might fail or not, but you need to be ready, right? When it fails and how to handle this, it's critical to handle this sort of failures, especially in the service-to-service communication, like we call it end-to-end testing, right? One microservice talking to each other, and another microservices should handle some failures. And how to test this? To test, we use fault injection testing approach, which means it's able to simulate errors into your APIs. It's not an injection like we got an injection, or during a pandemic, it's not type of injection, but you can inject some features to your APIs that can simulate some delays. Let's say, what if A and B microservice talking to each other, but B is not responding or taking a long time to respond? In this case, you can simulate this error. What if this service is delaying, and how catalog service, for example, can react when it's trying to retrieve some products to the relevant to the catalog, right? Or you can abort requests using fault injection. Like you can say, okay, product service, if fails, how catalog service should react on this? This sort of testing calls fault injection testing. Even Netflix also has own feature, I think, tool called Chaos Monkey. Have you heard about this? Yeah, Chaos Monkey also use under the hood API gateway and fault injection approach. This is a very familiar. I really recommend. There's a lot of books and also presentations around this. It can help you to build resilient system and reliable systems using chaos engineering. Fault injection is just a part of chaos engineering. And how to achieve with API 6, you can use fault injection plugin. We developed it and we thought it can be helpful, but of course your feedback is also welcome. It's open source project. Like if you think like what we can improve else, like we can improve, because it's just for community who is using it. For testers, maybe it can be useful. I'm demoing it like maybe only 2 or 3 times for testers. If you find it interesting, we can work on it. Because it does also offer the same features. Delays, aborts, you can simulate errors and to achieve something. So let's jump into small demo. This is the overall picture. I am building, or maybe I have an existing application in my company that has multiple microservices. Let's call it online shopping website. It has a catalog, product, order, customer, many microservices, right? Especially when we saw catalog is trying to retrieve all the products belongs to one catalog, you should have a service-to-service interaction, right? You need to retrieve catalog A and multiple products. So in this case, what if product service fails? What do you do? So we're going to test this now, this situation with a real project I had. Like I tried to simulate by running multiple services on my machine. So if you're ready, so far, any questions? Like we can stop here before the demo and try to answer a question. Any? No? Everything is crystal clear or nothing is clear? Yeah, good. So in this case, if no question, let me jump to the demo session. You can find also on GitHub. I will leave a link at the end of the slide. And here, demo project, what it does. I have .NET application with multiple microservices instances. Like I have product service 1, 2, 3. And I have API 6 project also running on inside the Docker. I have also Docker dashboard, all the necessary components that maybe API 6 needs to run. And I'm going to simulate now the product service failure by injecting delays and rejecting aborts, right? Let's assume that this project is up and running. I'm going to my VS Code, right? And I'm going to also introduce some failures. First failure, let's think, maybe, I hope it's visible, right? Big enough? What if I can do, come on, F1? No, it's not working. Okay, it's good, it's fine. I am going to introduce first fault injection abort using the fault injection plugin. Actually, this is the plugin I was talking about. We're going to use curl commands, but I will show you also you can achieve without curl commands, without command line interface. You can use dashboard. For example, I will create a route in API gateway. Route, just a basic term. In every API management, there's a route. Means you define some rules and policies how your API gateway should route upcoming request to the intended destination. For example, I can say, hey, put some security here in this route. I can put security. Anyway, I'm not writing any code, I'm just using plugin. Now I'm putting in this route fault injection plugin and saying, please abort any upcoming request to my following URL path /API/products, because I'm simulating error, right? Let's say I'm writing cucumber tests to simulate these errors. And under cucumber tests, I am calling /API/products, an API gateway simulating if product service currently unavailable, right? And also you can specify like percentage of the time. There are several attributes where you can specify after how many requests it should fail, after how much load it should fail. You can also specify in this plugin. You can check out on the website, but maybe we can add some additional attributes to make more complex scenarios, right? And as you can see, there's a plugin section in the JSON object, and also the upstream. Upstream means my backend service. Backend service, our product API, right? I'm assuming catalog service is calling product API, and this route is catching every GET request coming to this URI. Clear, right? This configuration, not the advanced level, huh? And I am using an admin API to make some configurations because I need to use this plugin, right? So let's try to maybe run this curl command and test how it works. I can open here on the left side, on the right side for me, terminal. Sorry, I need to use Ubuntu, not a Windows, right? Here we go, paste here. If I press enter, API 6 says, okay, I configured for you now new route that catches all the requests coming to /products, and I will use fault injection plugin for that. Let's see how it works. If I try to now request, let's say, and validate this response without time here, I'm trying to send a request to /API/products now. By considering that I have fault injection plugins enabled. As you can see here, what's happening, fault injection is reacting quickly. I said 100% of the time, every request should be rejected from the catalog service to product, because I'm simulating error. What happens if catalog service, how our developers implemented this resiliency. And you can see like service temporary unavailable error coming from not my product service, but from API gateway. Like how you are catching the request, right? Is it clear, this aborting request? Huh? Is it nice feature? Yeah. And next one. Next one is, let's try to inject delay. Like I'm saying, all the time, try to put some delay in time, 5 seconds. My backend service should take some delay to respond. How to test this? Let's inject also another property of fault injection plugin to say some delays, right? Here we go. We are good to go. And if you send the same request now with time, putting time attribute to see how much time it's taking to respond the product API, you will get, of course, you will wait 5 seconds and you will get the response coming from your /product API. You see, it's taking 5 seconds and responding now my product API with a list of products I have in my catalog. Actually, I have only 2 because it's demo purpose. In reality, you can have millions or billions if you're working for Amazon, or I don't know if you're working in one of the bigger companies. Yeah, this is how the delays works. Now we did these 2 configurations, simple configuration using curl commands. Now you can ask, hey, Bobur, we don't like to write the curl commands, or we are QA engineers wants to use admin UI to do so. We start with curl commands because you might programmatically test your APIs, right? And if you don't want to programmatically test, there is also a dashboard. If you navigate to this dashboard, let me log in, just admin. It's also open source. As you can see here, the routes we created here, the same. I can create a route on my dashboard. I can create also upstream on my dashboard. I think it should, okay, inside the route we have already configured, that's why let me show you. Here we defined our APIs, right? And then we click next. As you can see, my product API and my backend API server. And you can also see here some plugins. Like one click enable, these plugins start to work. Like assume that authentication, or someone asked, and fault injection plugin also here is working. You can also maybe customize this configuration inside the dashboard itself. Someone asked about, from previous speaker, the question how to achieve. What was your question? Can you maybe repeat? The first one. Yeah. Yeah. In this case, and what I mean, like there is a special feature that API Gateway has, the plugins. You can enable for this case, even WebSocket case. You had a question. I mean, I just recommend you check it out because it's not about like injection testing. Also, you can add some features like you want. You can simulate some maybe certificate based authentication, how it's working, how SSO working, single sign-on, right? I just remembered it by looking at you like the question. Okay, good. This is about, like here also there's some SSL configuration, you can check them out. So this is about the presentation, like because I had a very short, I tried to make it short. Let me present once again here. Takeaways from here. Okay, by using fault injection methods, not only engineers can take a benefit, also QA or testers. Am I right? Partially or fully? Yeah, please leave your feedback about, especially this fault injection plugin, chaos engineering. We can maybe, because I'm pushing this approach, like how I can help the testers. Maybe I can improve this plugin once more. And of course, QA engineers can test it to end-to-end scenarios with this fault injection plugin, right? And then you can also not only use this injection plugin, you can observe your APIs, because sometimes as a tester, I need to observe, right? I need to check the logs. Are you checking logs regularly? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you don't have to worry about observing your application. And of course, the resiliency design partners offered out of the box. So these are references I was telling to you, and questions. Here we go. Yes, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Eden, and I have
nice
two questions. Thank you. Nice to meet you. It seems that this Gateway API, it works like a jump host. It does.
What do you mean by?
It's like it creates an endpoint that directs you to another endpoint by not showing the original one.
No, the reason is, if you want to understand the reason behind this, because it acts as a proxy first. Like if you want to test multiple microservices, you need to run multiple microservices in your environment, right? But in API gateway cases, if you want to test multiple microservices, you don't have to run all of them, because API gateway knows all the routes to the API gateway, which route should go to which microservice. This is just the central point. And which means you can also mock these responses coming other microservices. That's one of the benefits also. And of course, it is another benefit, as I said, some additional features like caching. You can cache a request coming from backend again. Does that answer your question, or?
Yes, it does actually. And the other question is it possible to include these in your coverage of your code?
Yes, yeah, that was a question I expected, like before coming. Okay, people if asks, yeah, you can add these coverage tests. There is also a special, I think, extension we have. You can add these coverage tests to, for example, other platforms, tools for using coverage tests. You can integrate. You can check the website. There should be the extension to connect to the debugging tool or to coverage testing tool. Yeah.
And the last question, sorry guys.
Sure.
Is it possible to include these in your deploy process? Because it sounds like a very good feature to have covered. It does not just include resilience, but for me, integrity also.
Yeah, integrity. Okay. Yeah, I think it's possible. Because it can generate some also the code for you, Java code or Python code, and you can use this code maybe inside your application. And funny fact with API gateway, you don't have to actually, if you implemented your backend Java, it's not tied to any framework, Spring framework or ASP.NET framework. You can have a backend service on all the frameworks, but API gateway doesn't care. You can catch request without knowing what the backend is running, right? This is more about like API communication testing. Other questions? I don't see the lights is blinding me. Yeah, here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, now I can see you.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
First one is because you mentioned the health engineering part of fault injections.
Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation about doing it safely on the lower environments, or do you always want to break everything and restore?
Nice. Yeah, thank you for question. Yeah, it's a good question, I think. There are different deployment strategies when you are deploying API gateway, right? But the coolest thing is you don't have to destroy everything. Once you specify maybe in YAML file in standalone version what kind of routes you have, what kind of API backend servers you have, and you're gonna specify also fault injection tests. And when you deploy, if you want to change anything, you don't have to stop without any downtime. Is that the answer to your question? Or?
Yeah, thank you. That was one. And second one, because I'm using Azure API gateway, we can call it that way, because they have their own specific naming. Do you have any recommendation on that part testing? Because I see you recommending IP6. And for
API management. You're using Azure.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry. I was advocating for Azure API management as well. I know. API management, I think they should have similar features, like testing, mocking API responses. But I'm not sure about fault injection. If they had, or how many people are using, how many organizations are using this feature. Yeah.
Thank you.
We can talk maybe after, like if you
Sure.
want to yeah, great. So good. No more questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bobur.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's for me. Thank you. Thank you. Great.